espero que nadie se ofenda, pero hasta que no estás aquí dentro no sabes la grandeza de este equipo.
Só nós sentimos assim. Por muitos desgostos que possamos ter, valores mais altos se levantam. O valor mais alto que se levanta em termos futebolísticos chama-se Benfica.
Good evening. Welcome, episode 21. Kenny, it's a good look.
This is how every Benfica fan should feel today.
Welcome to episode 21 of Continue Benfiquista podcast. It's a good start to the evening here. Today we'll talk about Benfica's 1-1 draw against Clara in São Miguel. We have Oscar and Kenny back, and São Miguel joins us in Tank's absence. Before we get started into this, I'm sure, very entertaining conversation, just to shout out Exotic Dream Rental. Let them know we sent you $10 off per day per rental. Check them out on Facebook. Let them know we sent you again, Exotic Dream Rental. And also for those of you who are listening in, I know there's quite a few regulars, but if you are interested in joining, call the podcast. You can call into the podcast and share your thoughts or your opinions. So feel free to send us a message. We'll send you the information. We got the Shaw's bag boy over here making tons of noise.
Shit on the frown.
So today, Benfica goes, well, it's supposed to be yesterday. Match gets delayed, postponed because of the weather. We play today at 12 o'clock Eastern time, starting with the same team that started yesterday, obviously. Odysseus, Gilberto, Vertonghen, Ferro, Grimaldo, Rafa, Tarat, Weigl, Everton, Luca, and Darwin. Seferovic was out because of COVID. Gonçalo Ramos, COVID. Servi, COVID. Who else had COVID? Gabriel, COVID. And I feel like there's one. Jardel, COVID. So options on the bench. We're limited because of at least 4 of those players are regulars. Some of those are starters. We start the game well. We take the lead, and I want to break this into 2 halves here. I want to talk about the first half, which I thought was better, and then the second half, which was disappointing. Kenny, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to call you Sales because that's what I see on the bag.
Yeah, Benfica should fire sale everyone on the team.
What's your take on that first half performance?
Well,
just the first half. Don't get into the second half yet.
Well, let me just start with this, right? I debated whether I should, cover my face with a paper bag today because this is literally how I felt most of the day. It's so frustrating. Your opponents win their games, and I've been skeptical of the team, their performance and everything, right? But hold on, I literally can't do this. This is like this was just to show everyone how I feel. But in all honesty,
sweaty?
Yeah, I just couldn't see anything. No, so I feel like I don't even know where to start. Like, if this was in previous years, I feel like, it's only a 2-game swing. I would be okay with it. But this is just more of the same stuff that we've seen all year and most of last year. And I just don't see them turning it around. So it's just frustrating, and I don't have no confidence in the team. I don't feel like they have any confidence in themselves to turn things around. It's just bad soccer everywhere. Now, okay, they had a good first half. They scored a goal, but I don't know. I look at the game as a whole. Like, they still didn't do enough. it's just so disappointing, man. Like you want to believe, but it's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen this year.
São Miguel, what were your thoughts on the first half itself?
The first half, to be quite honest, I didn't mind. We were kind of moving the ball like we should, moving it fast. The goal is because we actually utilize moving the ball quickly, which we've seen in the past has worked best for us, especially when like we see those Pizzi, Rafa quick movements and Everton, Grimaldo quick movements on the wing. But like Kenny said, it deflates way too quickly. It's like you kind of see the quick, and then it's almost like, it just dies after a moment. It's just like everything just like deflates after one goal. It's like, all right, well, we're done here. All right, let's pack up and leave.
Oscar, thoughts on that first half?
All right. First half is probably where we got all our possession. If you look at the stats, it's like we controlled the whole game, but passed the ball back. They didn't create much. I don't think we created that many chances in the first half, even though we had all the possession and all the ball control. We didn't create much at all. It's not like a game we say we could have been up 3-4-0, okay, at halftime, even though we controlled the whole half. But I agree with these guys. We don't. Looks like we lack like offense. We lack like moving forward the ball. We lack like shooting on net. We lack the final touch. We lack so much in this team this year that it's scary to watch. It's scary to watch, and it's scary to think that other teams, mostly all other teams in our league, can think that they can come to our field or us visit them and they can get a result against us. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what do you think is the root cause of that? And we can get into it, but a lot of people are pointing the finger in one direction, right? Which is JJ, and I don't disagree with some portions of that, and we can get into it as well. But I think, is it again, we talked about in the past, is it a mindset that comes from above that's not making its way down?
I don't agree. Look, I've been a big critic of George Jesus since he came back, right? I just don't like the guy. I don't like him. When he left Benfica, to me, he was dead, okay? He was like, he can go anywhere else. Porto, Sport, I don't care where he goes. I don't want him back in Benfica. And it'll take a lot for that to change. And now I won't give a shit if we won the Campeonato. It will still take a lot for that to change for me to like the guy. The thing is, like, we wasted a lot of money. And looks like we don't have no debt on our team. Looks like we can put it. That Fabio Cardoso guy that's on Santa Clara, that guy was in our B team and then 1 year in our A team and whatnot. He looked a lot better than all of our center backs put together. Okay, the thing is, like, why don't we, like, the 50 million or 60 million we spent this year off season to get a team, to get basically, and I still say it was an election kind of a campaign, like, to get all these guys in here, spend all this money thinking we're gonna win it all, go far in Europe. And then do this kind of shit. I'd rather him spend that kind of money and get like all the best players we have around the league, and then have depth in our team.
So I'll add this, right? So I haven't, as long in the past, in previous podcasts, I haven't been on JJ's ass, right? The reason for that is because we were getting the results. But I said the minute we stop getting the results,
then I call
like
that
the luck's up. Yes, you did.
Then I call that?
Once the luck's up, and then I'm off board. And this is the beginning of that, right? We lose points where we needed to stay, because this isn't like in past years. Like I said, a 2-game swing is 3-game swing was fine. But you can make up those points. I have no confidence that we're going to recover this year. It's not going to be that easy.
We're 12 games in. Benfica's lost.
Yeah, but no, there's not. The only difference is we can beat down 4 points. I wouldn't care in any other season.
Exactly.
It's like we're not playing like we deserve to be where we are. We deserve to be like 10 points down easily.
Well, at the end of the day, deserving has nothing to do. What matters is what's on the stats, right? And what's on the stats is that we're 4 points back, playing poorly, which we can
very poorly.
Right, but I'm not even. And I'm not looking at the other teams, right? Yes, they could drop points. I just don't feel like we're going to have like a streak of like 7, 8, 9, 10 wins in a row. Like we're gonna continue. We're gonna continue to tie, at the very best tie games, but we're gonna lose. Like this month, I'm looking at like maybe 3 losses this month alone. That's a lot. So I just don't have confidence in our team. I think the other Porto and Sporting are not that great either. They will drop points, but we're not going to have this massive. I feel like in the second half of the season, usually Benfica plays better and they have a string of wins, like
Besides
they just
last
go
year.
unbeaten. Besides last year, but not. I feel like this year is going to be just like last. And like in previous, maybe 2 years ago, a game like in the Açores with the weather conditions, game postponed, the field all COVID, I would take a tie any day, any other year. But this year, no way. I just you can't. I just don't feel like we have enough to recover from these points.
I think it's crazy that. So we were talking about it off the air, and again, it's crazy to see the difference on the scale, right? Benfica started well in the season. I think won 5 in a row, and then we started to kind of hit a lull, and we had started to get results. Again, whether they were merited or not, whether they were lucky or not, is indifferent, right? At the end of the day, results are results, right? Whether it's 1 point or 3 points, whether you deserved it or not, it's indifferent. But it's interesting to see how, right, the current champions are tied in points with us, and the mood is significantly different, right? Porto fans are, yay, we're 4 points back, right? We're coming. Benfica fans are, fucking hell, the world is ending, the sky is falling, we're 4 points back, 12 games in, we're not even halfway through the season, the season's over, let's chalk it up as a loss, and let's move on to next year. It just, I guess and João Miguel, you also said, right, you feel like you have no like, what is it that doesn't give you the confidence? Like, I get we're not playing well, but it's not like we don't have the tools in the shed to build a house, right? Like, we have the tools there. We have a manager that's proven that he can win things. Is he making bad decisions? Yes. Is he not doing what we would expect at this point? Yes. Is he the only one that's struggling to find consistency in his side? No. Okay. We look across Europe, all the top teams struggling. Okay. In Portugal, we talked about it just now. Sporting started on fire, right? For anyone that's watched the games, last 4 games, they've started to lose a little bit of gas. Yes, they've gotten results, but we can say the same thing about some of their results as we've said about ours, right? A little bit of fortune, a little bit of luck, right? That comes with the season, right? You're going to need a little bit of luck. You're going to need a little fortune all the way through. You're not going to win every game convincingly and deservingly. Porto, same thing, right? Yesterday, up until that second goal late, it was tight. Moreirense had 2 chances to tie it. They've not looked great either against us. Neither team looked good. Braga against Sporting this weekend, right? We can all agree that they had the upper hand for most of the game. They just didn't take their chances, right? So that game can go completely differently depending on if someone takes their chances or not. But what is it specifically, and I'll start with you, João Miguel, what is it that doesn't give you the confidence? Again, because I think we have the tools. We have a manager with experience who has proven that he can win. So what is it that doesn't give you the confidence that after 12 games, all of a sudden it's just like we can't make up a 4-point gap over the next, 18 games or 22 games or something like that?
I think the biggest thing, I mean, to me, I mean, I look at it the same way. It's only 12 games in. Looking at teams across Europe, Arsenal for one, started off terrible. Now they got a couple good wins. You see that their form is a little bit.
Yeah, they're getting informed just like right before Benfica. That's perfect.
Yeah,
But regardless,
thing, right? This
regardless,
season
you
is
can
one of
compare
those.
them to them. You can kind of compare. They're kind of in the same spot. They're both with a coach that people don't agree with in the sense, and they think that getting rid of it's going to fix it, and their form is terrible. But in reality, they're really not far from number one. They're not far. So, like, it's kind of the same. But I mean, for me, I look at it as it is 12 games in. The only thing that doesn't drive the confidence for me isn't the coach. It isn't the president. I think it's more so the players. They have a poor attitude. There's some players that are there that are kind of stinking up the field. I think today, to be quite honest, when Everton came off, and I'm a fan of Everton, I think when he came off, we actually played a little bit more smoother, a lot better. We didn't lose the ball as much. I think, and I've had fights with Tank in the comments about this and you guys before, is I didn't mind Taarabt. I see he has good qualities, but I think after the past string of games, it's just been he loses the ball way too much. And yeah, he does those like little risky passes and stuff like that. But right now, Benfica needs simple, and risky passes isn't helping us because we don't have the team that's going to run onto those balls like he expects them to. And the other biggest thing for me, the biggest red flag is, when do we sit down Darwin and give another striker a chance at starting up top? Because Darwin is really, he scored today, but his form, I believe, his decision making is absolutely horrendous. It's just like it's bad.
But
So
other than
who you put in?
But Steph is on COVID.
Yeah. So who you
that's
put in?
the thing.
To be quite
Joseph
honest,
had no choices today.
To be quite honest, I wouldn't mind switching it up, putting maybe trying Facundo Ferreira. Today, he didn't look bad. He actually, like, some of his touches, some of his decisions,
Didn't he come in at the 84th minute?
He didn't. That's what I'm saying. He didn't have enough time, but he didn't look bad for the time that he was in. He was in the right spot, but
you can't put a guy in starting in this game and bench a $25 million striker.
No. I understand that.
Really giving you a reason.
Slowly working him in.
There's
I
no way
wouldn't
to slowly work him in. I don't know.
We all agree with this. If Benfica pays $25 million for a striker and then they sit him, fuck Jorge Jesus. You'll be criticized until the end of the day. Like,
he won't do it.
Chance. You will never do it.
Obviously, he won't.
Dude, he will not do it because that guy is their future, and I think that's what they're banking their money on. They pay $25 million to get 60 back. They're not going to bench that guy and give him and lose value on him.
They better like give him COVID so they have an excuse to sit him, because he's not going to sit him.
I honestly think that was probably his worst. When he was hitting stride, when he was actually playing really well, that's when he got COVID and he was sat down for that like week and a half.
He's been so bad with his feet. Like, he cannot control a goddamn ball and dribble it without losing it. Like,
nope, he can't.
Like field conditions, whatever. Like, he is just like missing passes. Just awful, man. Just awful. I'll add this too. So absolutely, I think it starts with the players. Jean Miguel, I think you're right. It starts with the players. A lot of players are stinking it up, and I've not put the blame on Jorge Jesus in the past, but a part of me is starting to be like, it's just not the players. It's also the coaching, the tactics. That has to do a big deal, a big part of what's going on, because even the Santa Clara coach today said in the second half, he just decided to turn up the pressure a little bit, and Benfica was just fell apart. Benfica individually, they can't defend. As a team, they can't defend. The minute you put on a little pressure on the team, they completely fall apart. They just I don't, and that's tactics. Like, what is he like? Jesus has to come in like, oh, we have such a great first half, yeah, but the last couple of games you've had terrible second halves. So what are you not learning from the previous game? Every team is doing the same thing. They put a little pressure on you, and then you fall apart. And we're gonna probably talk about this later, but for a team that's chasing the game, and to not have a shot on net for the final 30 minutes,
29
minutes.
Exactly.
And I don't care if the whole team's defending. Throw a ball in the box. Like,
But
in there.
See, what's been happening in the past is that we like exactly like you said, we're tied against Santa Clara, right? And we're not chasing the result. We're not going after that second goal. And then Darwin scores a goal in a 91st minute, and we won. Oh yeah, we got a result. But those 28 minutes that we didn't shoot on net, we are not the Benfica that we used to be. We used to be shooting like 20 times on net to get a result, and then finally score one goal. But we're not shooting on that. And then against the Rangers, we ended up tying the game in the last minute by Darwin and Luka putting the ball through. But we didn't deserve it because we didn't create any chances up until that ball through. It's like I called the luck will run out, and then we're gonna look back and be like, damn, we got these results, but we didn't deserve them. But now, Mike, back to your question, Mike. You said something about like you're looking at Benfica and compared to Porto and Sporting. Let me just look at this. This is why I feel like I'm with Kenny and I don't feel secure in Benfica this year, right? Porto has 14 games, 13 wins, 1 tie. The last 14 games, okay? Sporting has 12 wins, 2 ties.
That's across all competitions.
Correct. And the tie is against City. Okay? The last 14 games against City. Sporting has 12 wins, 2 ties. 1 against Porto and 1 against Famalicão. away. All right. Benfica has 3 losses, 5 ties, 7 wins. This is why I don't feel confident.
I mean, I'm not. Go ahead, Kenny.
No, and just to add to that, right? Look at the upcoming schedule. We're only 4 points behind.
Yeah.
I think by the end of January, we're probably going to be 7-9 points behind by the end of January, and that's, to me, this year.
Don't say that on the air. Come on, I have a bet going.
Dude, listen. Yeah, go ahead.
But I'm gonna also add to that. Again, you say Sporting and Porto, okay? Sporting and Porto both have the same manager, the same philosophy as they had last year. This is one thing that
manager.
Yeah,
Ruben Amorim is recently new too.
Ruben Amorim spent half the season with Braga.
Half a season. But it's like, okay. But if you look at the philosophy, Jesus has been with Benfica for 4 years before, so the philosophy is there.
Yeah, but you can't compare. It's completely different, dude. He's been away from Benfica for 5 years.
And he's not the same. He's not the same coach.
Let me just compare one thing from the past Jesus to this Jesus, right? Our goal that we scored today, nobody was moving in the box. Was there? But when Jesus was in Benfica, everybody was saltinhos, everybody moving to get the balls crossing the box. What happened to that fucking Jesus? They used to have those players fucking hyped up.
I'm not disagreeing with you, and that's the thing that we talked about, right? JJ
this guy came to retire.
We talked about it last. We talked about it last week on the podcast, right? Something for me, and I'm sure for many other people, is different about him. His approach is different. His passion seems not as exuberant. Something seems different, but again, it's easy for us to compare to Porto and Sporting, and that's fine because they are direct rivals, right? But at the end of the day, Porto and Sporting have an upper hand in the sense of it's the same manager. They're not learning a new system. All those players know who the coach is. No, they've been working at it longer, right? They've had, JJ comes in, picks up a team that was terrible in the second half, right? And with such a shortened schedule, he doesn't have much time to work things on the training ground. Whereas the Porto and Sporting have the same manager who molded this team, right? So this is their team, and they've had last season at least to carry over to, this is what we've worked on. We're just going to carry, right? If anything, they keep it simple coming into the season, right? Like, we have no time to train, right? Let's just add a little bit of detail from what we worked on last year, and let's just refine it as we go. But we're not going to try to reinvent the wheel because we don't have time to do that. And JJ is almost like the victim of not having that opportunity because he picks up a different team. Yes, I know you're going to say, or you're thinking, he spent $100 million. I get that, right? But like I told you off the air, the money doesn't play on the field. Yes, when you buy expensive players, the expectation is that they're going to deliver, right? You expect $25 million striker to score goals more often than not.
Not 3 goals in 6 months.
You expect Everton, who comes from Brazil, who was hyped up, to make the difference in games like this, right? That's the expectation. Unfortunately, it's not happening right now. And there's only so much JJ can do, right? He's not the one that's in the field, right? Here's an example. Benfica, 97th minute, we have a corner kick. The ball gets played back to the center circle, 30 seconds or less. And Grimaldo passes the ball to Odysseus.
Yeah.
Is that JJ's fault? No. It's just the mindset of some of these players blows my mind. Like, why are you playing that back to the fucking goalie? Put it in the box. You have 2 strikers.
But let me ask you a question. If that Grimaldo pass happened with Sergio Conceição, what do you think would happen?
He would lose his shit. And if that pass,
I expected that from Jesus.
That's what I was just going to say. If that pass happens in JJ version 1.0, he probably comes on the field and fucking slaps him.
100%.
But that's what I'm saying. There's something different. And Paul, to answer your question, there was 8 minutes. If you watch the game,
He's probably watching on his phone. He doesn't have the app.
One player was knocked out for about 5 minutes and had to be assisted. And
Stretch
each
it off.
team made 5 substitutions. So that's why there was 8 minutes, in case you're wondering. But that's the thing. That's the difference of the JJ of the past and the JJ of today. I don't know why. But the other question I have for you guys is, given the first half that we played, right, and I guess Portimonense, it was similar, right? Although we played 30 better minutes. I don't know, and I talked to Cristiano about it today. We spoke about an hour and a half ago. What is it that is said or not said at halftime that leads to the team completely breaking down in the second half? Like what is it?
I don't know. I don't know if it's something that we're not doing. More like other teams, they're doing something, whereas we're just trying to like just maintain the game, continue the same thing, and the other teams are changing things up, and we just can't adapt. And that has to do with coaching. And just you made all those points. Like you almost like give me even more belief that Sporting Porto, because they've held things kind of consistent. They're just this is who they are. They're gonna consistently keep staying up top, and we're gonna continue to struggle because we don't have that cohesion with the same coach to player type. So that's even more of like, yeah, I don't believe we're gonna turn it around.
No, and another thing is, like, you said something about Jesus not having enough time to view this, like he didn't. But like, shouldn't we be seeing the results now, 6 months in?
I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, more than enough time.
Preseason is only 2 months. You come in the end of July, all of August. The game started end of August, right? So that's 2 months, usually for a new coach. Elijah didn't have 2 weeks when Rui Vitória left. And I guess the pressure wasn't there. It was nothing to lose, blah, 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 blah. But Elijah legit came in when Rui Vitória had the team in shambles too. All right? That's why we got rid of Rui Vitória. And Lodge came in, and guess what happened? He turned it around. He won 18 in a row, second half of the season. Like Jesus bringing all these millions of dollars players and needing time to adapt in the Portuguese league, it doesn't go with me. It doesn't. If not for that kind of thing, then spend the money where we can get multiple players, decent value in Portugal, and we have a team with depth.
Let me ask you guys this: like, we've come on here every game, right? We pretty much say the same thing. I mean, at this point, this is how Benfica is. Like, do you guys, Mike, what do you see that can change? Like, what do you see that is good? Yeah, we're having good first halves. Like that. Was that the best that we have? Because besides that, I don't even know what we're doing good.
No, we're not creating chances. That's my biggest problem. We're moving the ball first half. Having possession, because I saw the possession was like 67 to 30, whatever.
We don't do nothing with it.
Nothing,
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. With
Another thing is like I think the big thing also, if you really look at Porto and Sporting, if you really want to get deep into it, answering the second half question, when they go in at halftime, they don't have a guy like Coates who's there for Sporting. He's their leader. They don't have Pep, who's there to rally them. They don't have Benfica doesn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Ruben Diaz was the closest thing we have to that. And once he left, it just goes to show. Look at how much of in shambles our defense is.
But that's such a farce. I don't buy into that. Like, Ruben Diaz was the closest thing. Benfica fans are so in love in the romance with Ruben Diaz. Listen, I think he's a great player. I would have loved to keep him at Benfica. But there's this romance of Ruben Diaz was this leader. Ruben Diaz, yes, he bled Benfica. He was there since he was a kid. I get that. But yes, he was the captain, but doesn't necessarily mean that he was like this.
He was the captain for one game.
Okay, but doesn't mean that he was like this amazing leader, right? Like, he was a guy that left it all on the field, right? He was a workhorse. He was going into every challenge. He wasn't taking his foot out. But this Benfica fans have this romance with Ruben Diaz now that he left, and it's like, well, we don't have someone like Ruben Diaz in our squad. Like, everyone crucifies André Almeida, right? But now they're like, whoa, André Almeida, he was one of our leaders. Like, so which one is it, right? Like, was Ruben Diaz the leader, or was André Almeida the leader? Right?
But I think there is something there though. Like, there is, like, I don't, as much as I like Pizzi, he's not. I mean, he's the closest thing to a leader on the team, but I don't see that leadership role really acting out. Like, I don't know. I think there is something there to have that kind of firecracker person on your team to kind of really like the Luis Zhao incident, like someone like that. Like, Luis Zhao didn't come off like that on the field, right? Like this big fire, but you can tell, like, in the locker room and when you needed him, he was there to like light a fire under people's asses. I don't think Pizzi's that type of player, and I think there's something to that.
And today, Pizzi, same thing. When Pizzi came on, you could tell, like, if you actually listen to like him when he came on, he was like clapping his hands, telling everyone to start move, and that lasted for like 5 minutes, and then everyone just went back straight down to like I'm gonna be lazy, like that. It ended real fast.
At the end of the day, it doesn't. It shouldn't, right? And we all played, right, at different levels, right? But it shouldn't matter, right? When we were on the field, right? If someone came on the field and said, like, fucking get working, get running, do that, right? Like, if you didn't have any interest, it could mean, it doesn't matter what the hell they said to you. It just wasn't going to happen, right? And again, I bring it back. Is it the mindset that's coming from the top that the expectation isn't sufficient? Because these players shouldn't need one guy that has a piece of cloth wrapped around his goddamn arm in the field to motivate them to fucking try, is what I'm confused. Right? Everyone in that field should be a leader. Everyone in that field should want to lead by example. And it shouldn't take one guy with the fucking C on his arm to be like, okay, boys, let's go. We got to fucking try. Let's run.
You'd be,
right?
well, I mean, yeah, I can see that side of it. You know, you're paid professionals. But then call me crazy, but I believe not having fans has been a major factor. And look around every league. All big teams are struggling because of that.
Especially Benfica.
And you would think, oh, really? These guys are getting paid millions. You need fans in the. I mean, there are teams that really have that mystique about them. Benfica is one of them. I really do believe that because they carry a fan base everywhere they go. Even today at Santa Clara, that place would be packed with Benfica.
I'll tell you. One thing I agree with Kenny, first of all. But one thing is, on the last 20 minutes of the game we had today, if we had fans in that stadium, we would have shot at least 10 times on that.
Yes.
And that's the thing is the fans, right? They bring that other. They give you that motivational and that emotional boost, right? Like they get behind you. It gives you that little bit of lift, right? When the legs are heavy. Right, you're starting to doubt yourself, right? That motivation kind of kicks in and gives you that extra lift of like, okay, let's one more try, let's get it, right? And for some teams it helps, and for other teams it doesn't, right? Like again, Liverpool won the FIFA Club World Cup, right? And they're on a poor run of form, right? But again, one of the best managers in the world, star-studded squad, right? Something's not right there. Is it a lot of games? Is it whatever the case may be, right? So, but again, you look across all the leagues in Europe, and most of the top teams are struggling, right? Maybe not struggling where they're 15th in the league like Arsenal was at one point, but they're struggling in the sense, right? Barcelona, or they're struggling in the sense of
Juventus.
Consistency.
They're not dominant, yeah.
That's the thing, right? They'll win one or two games, then they tie, then they lose, then they'll win one or two games, and they'll tie, then they lose, right? And I mean, Porto was a good example, right? Like they're not playing well and they're getting results, right? Sporting was really the only anomaly, right? Where they came out blazing, right? And they've been more consistent, but over the course of the last 5 games, Porto's taken 2 points off of their lead. But again, it's consistent across all the leagues, and I agree with that point, Ken. And I think some teams are benefiting from maybe not having that pressure in the crowd, while other teams who bank on that extra boost are struggling without it, especially in a moment when the team lacks confidence and doesn't necessarily believe in themselves at certain points in the match. Not having fans and just kind of that quiet in the stadium, I feel like really hits you harder than normal.
And Benfica doesn't have the confidence.
All the teams that are in first place in like all the leagues that we really watch, if you really look at it, they're all teams that they haven't won in a while, and they have that hunger to try to, win. They don't really have like the almost every game is a home game. Like, they kind of have to wait for that home game for their actual sports to show up. So like in France, it's Lille, Monaco that's really challenging, and then PSG is kind of faltering. And then in England, it's Liverpool and United. That's kind of classic. And City. But
Tottenham was up there, right? So it's
Tottenham was up there too. And then Chelsea was up there too, and then they faltered. And it's Italy, same thing. Milan, they've been hungering for trying to get back to it. And Inter. And they're the only two that are really trucking at the moment, going up there. And Portugal, same thing. Sporting, they've been hungry, and they have like that youth system that's trying to like prove something, and the big teams that require that extra boost and are so used to it.
How long can a lion go without eating? Because it's been 20 years that a lion hasn't eaten.
I think the better question at this point is how long can an eagle go without eating?
Seriously.
You can only go 1 year.
And to touch on kind of what PRLX says here, como é que há esta falta de motivação num clube como o Benfica que dá todas as condições aos jogadores? For those of you that don't understand Portuguese, how do players at a club like Benfica have the lack of motivation at a club that gives them all the conditions that they need to be successful? And And again, I go back to the high level. Is it the fact that these players are so coddled, right? They give them all the fucking things that they need when they need them, that it's almost like they just get into this comfort.
They're getting
Yeah.
babied.
I think so.
And they don't,
I think at some point Benfica needs to get the players that don't just look at the conditions and look at the shirt, the heart.
Yeah,
And,
look at the.
we don't have those players anymore. We don't.
started to see that when Lodge was kind of losing the team. You started to see more and more improvements around the stadium, more and more improvements to making the lives easier for the players, and all this and that and that. And it just became so easy for the players that I think now they're just so lazy. Like they just don't have that, like, I have to show up and go to work. It's just like, oh, I'm going to show up and get paid anyway. So let me just go and do what I have to do.
Because there's so many like foreigners and new players on this team. Like who quem é que senta a camisola do Benfica right now? Like Odisseias, Grimaldo, Pizzi, Rafa.
again,
like the rest of these guys are all new and foreigners that don't feel the. I feel like when they feel the ambience of the fans in the stadium, like that hits them different. Or they go to Santa Clara, they go to Açores, and they see, holy shit, like we're pretty much playing at home. Or they go up north and they're like, oh, this is like they don't feel that.
That's what brings the environment, especially against like Porto and Sporting. Like Porto always had that like killer mentality. Like regardless of their fans or not, they're gonna play as hard. They'll run through a wall.
But why?
The fans, that's their culture. They built it that way.
Correct. And they have a coach who
built it that way. They have a coach that does that.
They have a coach that went and got players who, again, they're fit for the Portuguese league. I don't think they're Porto style players, just as an example. But those guys will fucking run through a wall, right?
Yeah.
I don't care how good you are. You go out there and give me every ounce of energy that you have, whether it's good or bad.
Especially
run your balls off. Right, and that's the difference.
Yeah, they're knuckles down, hard-nosed players, and we're a finesse team.
Who's the only player in Benfica that does that right now? Or actually, I know two of them.
Rafa and Pizzi.
No.
Actually, I think Gilberto right now.
No, the only two players that have been there for longer. Not Gilberto.
I would say Grimaldo's one.
No, Grimaldo sometimes is on and off. He's like it's somebody who gives it all, and Servi. Those guys, the tank is all there. Whatever in the field, they give it all. Okay, it can be not enough skill, but right now we need the guys like Servi and Samaris who can give it all they have and leave it on the field. We don't have any players like that in the field. We don't. And it's sad to say, Porto has Uribe, Otávio. Those guys will run through walls. They'll pretend if they got killed by a guy touching their ankle. They will go through players and pretend they're the ones who got hurt. Pepe goes through players. Like now we're starting to see that with Sporting. Like those guys, like even the foreigners go through players and play hard, right? Now we look at Benfica and like they raise their hand for everything that happens, and they don't want to put their foot forward. They're scared of getting hurt. It's like a bunch of bitches, to be honest.
The thing, and when you talk about that, right, is one thing that stood out to me this weekend on Saturday when Sporting played Braga was Pedro Porro's, like his passion is fucking off the charts. Like that guy.
Did you see him when he blocked that guy and it went out?
Running constantly. He took the ball away from someone at midfield and fucking celebrated like it was a goal.
Flipped out.
Like that's but again, right? And Jonathan says here, you need youth players built into the squad to have players. And while I agree with some of what you said, Kenny, earlier, right? Feeling the Mística and feeling what Benfica, again, I feel like that's we're romanticizing it again, right? Example. How many players at Manchester City are from the youth that feel the club? How many players are at some of these bigger, right? Apart from maybe Bayern Munich, right? Because they breed these guys and then they just go poach the best players from Dortmund and everything else. But how many of players at top teams, right? Liverpool, for example, right? They got a few. Alexander-Arnold, the other guy on the other side, I can't remember what the hell his name is, but like how many of these top teams have players from the youth that they can say they feel the club? I just think it's like you either have it or you don't.
No, so let me try to explain my thought. Right, look, I'm not saying that these guys aren't unmotivated. Of course, they're motivated to play. They're professionals. They're motivated, but there is another level that you need to get to. In some leagues, in the Premier League, you're playing, and it's showing all over the world. You're playing in Portugal. You don't. You're
especially without fans.
Without fans, You're in the Azores in the middle of nowhere, and
Third division.
Your game gets postponed. You're playing. You go into this field. It's a freaking pool. You have to wait till the next. Like you just you have to. There has to be something to bring a player to Portugal and then to play like your lights out. And of course they're motivated. They got all the conditions in the world to play. But there is another level that these players need to reach. And sometimes for Benfica, I feel like it's the fan base. And for Premier League teams, it's because you're playing for everyone, all over the world to watch. And even in the Bundesliga, you're viewed everywhere. In Spain, same thing. Like in Portugal, it's a different animal. You're in a lower league. Like it's just like I don't know. It's just where to explain. But there is another level that you need to reach and hit. And that's the level that Benfica is missing. The players on Benfica.
Yes, you think about like we talk about players coming from other countries, right? I still remember when we had like the Xavi Garcias. That guy used to leave everything on the field, and he was like a guy that wasn't a Portuguese player. But you could tell that he felt the mística benfiquista at some point.
Maxi Pereira.
I was saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Maxi Pereira. That guy left everything on the field. Like Ruben Dias was starting to show that, even though he was young, starting to show that he left everything on the field. Every time he had a tackle, he got up and point at the shirt and be like this, merda, mama aqui. Like that's the kind of mística that Kenny think is talking about. We don't have that. I don't see any player in Benfica right now with that, and that's not where we're used to. And then I think that's when I blame Jesus, because he brought these $25 million players in, and instead of having them play with the heart, they're playing for the money, and maybe they're using Benfica as a stepping stone to get a bigger league. And they don't want to risk getting hurt. They don't want to risk this. They don't want to that. They don't care about they're just getting the paycheck, score a few goals, and get the fuck out.
Well, the stepping stone's always going to be there. I mean, the Portuguese league's been a stepping stone for years. Will always be a stepping stone for the Spanish leagues, the Italian leagues. Maybe not so much now, and the Premier League, obviously. But again, I think separating it. I think the mística and feeling the club is one thing. I think having that drive and that passion is another thing. And I agree with that side of it. I think that we don't have. You don't see Benfica players celebrating, a fucking last hit, right? Like that tackle that Vertonghen had, or that block in the first half, the only chance that Santa Clara had, right? That block right there. If that's a Porto player or a Sporting player, they're fucking high-fiving each other. They're pumping each other up, like just pumping each other up, right? Like that was a huge block, right? Mm-hmm. He did it again in the second half, right? He had a block, he had a cut on a cross, right? But that's like that drive is in you. That's within the player themselves, not necessarily where they came from. And I feel like, again, apart from Otamendi showed it against Porto, which was surprising, but apart from him, I don't see anyone else that has that like fire under their ass to like want.
That's a locker room culture. I feel like there's divides in that locker room, right? You got the Portuguese clique, you got the Argentinians over here.
I was about to get to that. That's exactly what I was gonna get. Like, still remember when Lage had like mostly Portuguese players on the field, like it was like 7, 8, or starting 11, right? You saw like even Ferro and Ruben Dias were the CBs, but the half a season when we came back and won the Campeonato. Dude, every time they had a hard tackle, they would fucking high five each other. They would bump each other's chest. Like any play that one of the other had, they would just Andre Almeida was back there. They would just fist bump each other, whatever they were doing. They just get each other as motivated, right? Now, because it's like, what, 2 Portuguese, 1 Portuguese in the field, I feels like they don't even like communicate. It's almost like everybody's playing for themselves and nothing, no chemistry whatsoever there. And that's why I don't see it.
Very big lack of chemistry.
I mean, to be quite honest, I mean, you could say that about in reality. I don't think it has to do with it being the difference between Portuguese and Argentinians and whoever is on the team. I think you're a professional. I think regardless what nationality you are, you need to find, like what Kenny said, find that extra step, find that way. Like you're paid to go and do that. You can't just be like, there's 2 other Argentinians here. How am I supposed to fit in? Dude, there's people that are Israeli that play in the EPL and they don't speak English. Like you can't make that excuse. I think the biggest thing is like Sporting and Porto, same thing. There's a lot of players there that aren't Portuguese. It's a very big mix. So like I think for Benfica is a lot of those players came in during this COVID thing and didn't feel how the Estadio de Luz feels when it's full. They didn't feel that, like, what Benfica really is, what it feels like to be in that stadium, and what the actual expectation is. I think for them right now, if you really look at it, it's like they're lifeless. They're just like there to do their job, and it's like, oh well, we didn't do it today. All right, let's pack it up and let's go move on to the next game and see if we can figure it out then.
But again, that's a player thing. Pedro Porro.
It is.
Pedro Porro's never played at Sporting with fans, and he's fucking running through walls.
No,
Exactly.
yeah, no,
They have to find that extra step, like Kenny said. They have to find it within themselves. It's not about like whose clique I'm part of and what this.
No,
I think it's.
I mean, John Miguel, there's one thing is like this teams that I play for, and it comes back to college and all that. If the games don't go well, there's a lot of finger pointing. All right, within the locker room. Okay, that divides a team.
Yeah.
Right? And no matter what, if you're professional, not professional, like if there's finger pointing and the team starts getting divided, there's no chemistry on the field. All right. And that's what coaches come in. That's what captains and everybody comes in to unite everybody. Right. And we've seen, I think it was a big team. Like, who was it? It was, I forget the name of the player that he was not getting along at all in a big team.
Wasn't it Bruno Fernandes and Maguire? He said you don't deserve to wear the captain's band.
Right. So you get players like if you don't have a captain or coaching that can unite these players, there's going to be finger points. Oh yeah, Gilberto came in and he sucks, and now our right back sucks. And then we don't have any center back, so Otamendi came in from Porto, and now we have a Porto player in our team. There's a lot of bullshit like that, and the chemistry is gone. It takes a while. It takes coaching, and it takes the captains to unite the team. We don't have that. I don't think we have that.
And I agree. We don't. And I think it's also a fault that Luizão and Rui Costa are there, and it feels like they don't have a presence. It's almost like they don't exist.
Well, they're also not the manager. There's a difference, right? You hire a manager to manage the team. Rui Costa is the vice president. That would be like you being a manager at work and your manager managing your employees. Just right, that you're hired for a reason to do a role, and that's what you need to do. I think.
I know it was Sanchez. Remember Sanchez went to Manchester United?
When he left Arsenal?
And we left Arsenal. And then he stepped by himself. He ate by himself. There's a big report that nobody talked to him and all that. And he was a top player when he left Arsenal to go to Manchester United. And then guess what happened to Manchester United? It sucked because of what? Nobody united him into the team. And if you start pointing fingers like, oh, he's a superstar, he comes in, then everybody starts doing their own thing, and it doesn't work. And Manchester United was in shambles at that time. All right, that's what I'm talking about. We needed somebody to unite the team, and we don't have that.
Two more things on this game. One, do we Fabio Cardoso, like you said earlier, Oscar, product of Benfica's youth, scored a goal, had a couple of huge tackles. Do you think he's only 25 years old?
26.
Do you think? 26. Do you think he's a guy that would have a spot on Benfica?
All right. So let me think about Fabio Cardoso. He's Portuguese, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're gonna go pay 6.5 million to this Verissimo guy, good in the Brazilian league, right? I haven't seen him play. I don't know much about him, right? But Gilberto's a good in the Brazilian league. Like these guys supposedly are good Everton was good in the Brazilian league. They come in, they need time to adapt, right? Well, don't you think a 2 million to Santa Clara to get Cardoso back is more well worth it? Somebody that's adapted to the league that comes in, he's the fighter. He comes with a mystic Benfica that we need. That's my question. We get players like we're talking about last week, Oleg from Porto. The guy is a machine on the wing.
He went to Olympiacos.
He went to Olympiacos, right? But where did Porto get him?
He left. Porto was going to get him, but Olympiacos scooped him up. They offered him more money.
Right. Sorry. And the other guy that Porto has, a right back or left back.
Zaidu.
That's the guy I'm talking about. Like Zaidu. Yeah, another guy. That's what I'm talking about. And look at this. When he does a jump, he's gonna make the quadruple, if not like more than that money.
So I agree with you, Oscar. I just feel like Benfica's had I think Benfica's tried to get players like that, but they never hit. Like Chiquinho. We brought in like I don't know, Silvio and some other guys in the past.
Silvio won the Campeonato Benfica.
But they got him from Atletico Madrid. Silvio came from Atletico Madrid.
No, I'm forgetting Luizinho. I think it was like Luizinho came from like Passos Ferreira.
Yeah.
Like we've tried to pluck those players and they never pan out. They barely even play. Like Porto hits on him. I don't know why. I don't know if we just don't give the players that we bring in time. But like, yeah, Chiquinho's a perfect example. He's not great. He's just a bench player. I agree with you though. I wouldn't mind Fabio Cardoso. But I also, Verissimo comes with a lot of hype, and 6.5 million isn't that bad of a price tag for potentially a future
low
sale.
risk, high reward.
Yeah, so I don't mind. I mean, if he was like I don't know 18 million or 12 million, that's another story. That's double, triple the price. But 6.5 million is not bad for a player that you could probably turn around and sell for in the 20s.
Yeah, but let's think about this. Tupido, right? He's probably not going to play with Benfica. He's going to probably leave the end of the season.
He was on the bench the other day, wasn't he?
Yeah, he has to. He had no other center back.
He had COVID. I'm surprised he was still there.
Like, wouldn't you rather have if Tupido is not good enough to even get a minutes on Taça da Liga, Taça de Portugal? Don't you rather have a Fábio Contraão to be a third center back when in a case like this? Fábio Cardoso, sorry.
So Todibo hasn't had a chance to play because he's been hurt. This was the first time he was on the bench.
Yeah, then why the fuck we need a Aleijado on our team that we don't even know?
Well, that's different. But you're saying why isn't he good enough to play in the Taça Liga? He might be. He just hasn't had enough time. He's been hurt. This is the first time. That's why he didn't start. Jorge Jesus said he hasn't really practiced with the team much because he's been hurt. So who knows? Maybe he would have started if he had to and he had more time. We don't know that.
I don't know much about Verissimo, but Jesus should know the kind of player he is. So if Jesus, sees more value in him, for the price, I don't think it's a bad move. I don't see much difference between Ferro and Fabio Cardoso. If you want a Fabio Cardoso, you might as well keep Ferro. I think it's, pretty similar player. Maybe Fabio Cardoso is a little bit better, but at the end of the day, they're both going to be bench players, rotational player.
I'm a fan of getting getting players from at least Portuguese players. I don't want to lose the whole. At the one point when we had 7-8 Portuguese players lining up on the field, I was proud of Benfica. And we get plug in good players from elsewhere, but having the core that has the heart is means a lot to at least for a fan like me. I'm all a believer in that.
I do too, right? I would love for Benfica to field a starting 11 of 9 Portuguese players, right? But the reality of the way soccer is today, the Portuguese players that are good don't want to be in Portugal, right? They want to get out as quick as they can because they're going to make money. Florentino, an example, right? Jetson, an example, right? Jetson is trying to figure out his return on loan because if he comes back to Benfica in January, he loses $1 million between now and the end of the year, right? These are players who they would almost rather go overseas and test the waters there and make more money and maybe not play as much than to stay back and maybe be in and out of the squad and have to fight for their role, right? That's just a reality of the business it is today. Unfortunately, the likelihood of Benfica or really any Portuguese team, right, with the exception of Sporting, they probably have the most Portuguese right now, but the likelihood of one of those teams winning or being successful for a decent amount of time with a core of Portuguese players is probably very unlikely, as much as we would love to see it. At least that's the way I see it.
And if you look in the past, some of Benfica's best teams didn't have many Portuguese players.
Correct. You think about
Jesus was there. Yeah, he had Gaetan, right? He had Cardoso. All our favorite players that we love weren't Portuguese.
Rodrigo, Maxi Pereira, David Luiz, right? Like you can go down the list. How many Portuguese players stand out to you on those teams? Think about it. Pizzi, and he was
how many of our goalies ever have been Portuguese?
Yeah, like we have. Yeah, that's the thing, right?
Bruno Varela, and we wanted them out.
King. We had King guy.
That was our one gold diamond in the rough.
Moreira wasn't even that good.
Yeah, but Moreira, he was good until he got hurt. Once he started getting hurt over and over again, then he was terrible.
Last one on this game, Kenny. Who was your stand-up player? Again, can be either team, performance, play, decision.
Oh, I didn't even best. I would say the best play of the goal, right? I think the goal was pretty. The 1-2-3 with between Rafa, Waldo, and Darwin. That was a great 1-2-3. I wish they would do more of that.
Yep.
But unfortunately, we only saw that one time. So,
São Miguel.
I would say the same thing. I think Benfica plays, and it's shown all season, we play the best and most efficient when we actually play that quick 1-2-3 soccer instead of slowly building up and getting bottlenecked into the middle and not crossing the ball ever.
Oscar.
I talking about best player or best play? Because best player, I'm gonna go with Gilberto. There you go, Gilberto, best player to me. And I'll tell you one. And look at that, he got hurt and we suffered a goal.
Mm-hmm.
and what
And
a
speaking of
stupid
that-
goal!
I know.
Like what a
Speaking of that,
stupid goal.
Terrible.
Did you guys notice that? And Tank's probably watching, and he's not here to defend him. But have you noticed that since Grimaldo came back, the teams that we play against, all their attacks are on Gilberto's side. They never attack on Grimaldo's side.
Yep.
I watched it closely again today. Constantly on Gilberto's side. Constantly on Gilberto. They would swing it to Grimaldo's side, get at midfield, and swing it back over to the right.
Which is strange because I actually think Gilberto is a better defender than Grimaldo. Grimaldo's better going forward.
Right now,
Gilberto's
yeah.
a better defender.
I think since teams are doing that, he's getting better because they're just always going to him, so he's getting used to it.
But I think it's interesting that like when Nuno Tavares is there, that's like their main focal point. Let's go for fucking
Because the guy's lost half the time. Like you think he's like 3 kilometers atrás dele.
But Grimaldo, we agree that he's not great defensively either. I think he's slightly better than Nuno Tavares, but it's interesting that even just being slightly better, they constantly don't go down his side. They want to go down the other side on Gilberto, which I thought was interesting today. What was your you said your player. What was your play or moment?
No, obviously the play is the goal. That there's no other play that we had. What the fuck?
Yeah. Vertonghen played well too.
Vertonghen,
Yeah, that was gonna be my player of the game. I think Vertonghen had two crucial. The first one, the one in the first half, and then that second half when he blocks that cross from coming in. But for someone of his experience being a Belgian international, I believe he might even be the captain now with Company gone, or Hazard might be him, and he might be one of the captains.
It's 10 since Hazard been out.
I would like to see that leadership from someone like him. Like he's a guy that's been in the EPL. He's been in the fucking trenches. He knows what it's like to be. Champions League final against Liverpool, right? Against all odds, right? They come back and fucking pull a rabbit out of the hat against Ajax in Amsterdam, right? Last kick of the game. A guy that has this experience and this career path, yet he doesn't seem to be very vocal. He's very quiet on the field.
He doesn't know the language. He
it's very
new.
Speak English. You listen to all these players on the field. You can hear him clearly.
He's been there for 3-4 years.
Yeah,
it takes time for that because look, a guy that comes from EPL, right? He doesn't know any of these players, and he thinks he's gonna yell them in English in a different language. They're gonna tell him, "Oh,
He's a lone wolf. What I've noticed? I've seen when you on Benfica TV when they show some of the highlights of the trainers and stuff. I've noticed like when they're running around, doing their warm ups, he's usually by himself, just jogging alone.
Yeah,
I've noticed it a few times.
Even
the chemistry.
Yeah, I think he's just a lone wolf on the team right now.
Even for Belgium, he's a lone wolf. Like the one person that's very vocal on Belgium, and I was watching their recent friendlies when they were playing, is Alderweireld. He's very vocal for them. He's very, very
he is at Tottenham too.
Player.
And if you look, like I watched City play this weekend, right? When they beat Chelsea and they smoked them, and I loved it every single second of it. But you see,
Blues.
Yeah, the fucking Team Miseria, aquele Chelsea. But you see Ruben Dias yelling, right? Most of the time he's yelling to Cancelo.
Dude, he really is.
And he speaks good English.
Yeah, but he's yelling at Cancelo the whole time.
But they listen to him, right?
Yeah.
Pep comes out and said he's a future captain for Manchester City, right? So it's a similar situation, right? Vertonghen goes to a league where he doesn't speak Portuguese, but he speaks English, right? Fortunately for Ruben Diaz, they speak English in England. But, right, like, he's a young guy. Of anything, right, there's guys around him that are making shit tons of money and have loads of experience, right? If anything, they could be like, okay, fuck off, kid, right? Like, who the hell are you, right? But they adopted it, right? Like, okay, this kid knows what he's doing. Let's fucking stick with it, right? They got two center backs, John Stones and Ruben Diaz, who aren't the oldest, right? But they're out there fucking yelling and telling people where to go.
Yeah.
I would expect that from someone like Vertonghen, and unfortunately, we haven't seen.
But Mike, you have to understand. One thing is, like, Guardiola, when he talks about these players, he motivates them to do that, right? I see Guardiola saying Ruben Diaz doesn't do anything wrong. Ruben Diaz is the guy that are the best.
He slammed the hammer. He slammed the hammer recently on De Bruyne for being very lackluster.
Yeah, but you see, De Bruyne, he doesn't talk much on the field. I'm talking about Guardiola. He motivates the center backs, Stones and Ruben Diaz to be.
That's his only issue right now is the center back. He has to.
JJ doesn't.
And JJ does it to Nuno Tavares.
JJ went to a press conference and said Nuno Tavares o futuro da seleção portuguesa. I mean, if you don't want any more of an ego boost, I don't know what else
you can't convert shit into fucking filet mignon. You can't.
Okay.
Yeah, but he gives Ferro the captaincy the other yesterday.
Who else is he going to give it to?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, he could have given it to Rafa.
Rafa's so hot and cold.
But that's what I'm saying. Like Jesus, I don't think really throws his players under the bus. He gives them confidence. He
could have gave it to Tarabat.
Yeah, no, dude. Jesus, to me, he looks like he has dementia. He's lost. He doesn't know what direction to go in anymore.
I agree. There's something wrong.
He doesn't
look focused. He doesn't look.
He just throws stuff up in the air, and I think that's whatever lands on you, you take it. I
still stick to my conspiracy theory. I talked to Cristiano about it today. I just feel like he's fucking peddling it slowly, trying to prove his point. You know, esta equipa precisa de mais alguma coisa. You need to go get me this. You need to go get me that. Yeah, and then we will see the JJ that we're used to seeing. That's just. Is he gonna? I can't comprehend why, for this long, having been there for 5 months, we would have expected to see some sort of game plan, some sort of philosophy, some sort of consistency. And this team doesn't have an identity on the field. And I just can't comprehend how a guy who nearly won everything with Flamengo, right, was fucking jumping into players' hands when they scored goals in the field, right? Like, and then comes here and he looks like, un Santinho, right? Can't say he doesn't say anything, different player. Like, it just doesn't. I can't understand.
He is a coach that feeds off the fan base, though. Like he still talks about massa associativa in Brazil and all the fans and the journalism there. And he still talks about that whole.
And the fans still love him. Like, people can say like, oh, they all hate. They really don't. I follow Flamengo on Instagram, dude, all of them, even in their own comments, are always talking about bring JJ back, and I'm like, Jesus Christ.
His intensity comes from that, that stuff around him. Like, he needs that. He's lacking that big time. Mike, I don't know if this was on the agenda, but can we talk about like the COVID issues? Like, we were missing a lot of players. I mean, on most years, it'd be like, it's a game that we tied, but like we're missing half the team. We were talking about, did Benfica, I don't know what happened, but like, did Benfica, miss protocols and go out and try to build a camaraderie, a team dinner, and they all got COVID? And why are other teams seeing the same thing? Because
why did Sporting get the antidote?
If I'm not mistaken, up north, I think they're a little more lax with the rules and the protocols.
That brings up a good point. It's ironic to me, and again, I guess another conspiracy theory, if you want to say it, and we talked about it in our chat, but I find it interesting that Benfica plays Porto in the Supertaça. Benfica has quite a few COVID cases shortly after. Mm-hmm. Porto plays Guimarães. Guimarães has their match postponed this weekend because of COVID cases. Mm-hmm. Ironically, now, Porto today announces that their B team goalie has COVID, which I think is interesting. But on top of that, Tiago Pinto, who had an interview before he left Benfica this past week, says that he knows that there are clubs in the Portuguese league that are not reporting positive COVID cases, which doesn't surprise me.
I wouldn't be
Again,
surprised.
He said it himself in the interview that they pushed the players and the club to make sure that we were reporting everything from the beginning because we wanted to send a message to the civilians of Portugal that it's not an embarrassing thing to be positive for COVID, right? Like, if we're going to get through this, people need to step up and say, I have it, quarantine, go through the right process to make sure that we're not spreading it. And instead, not telling anyone and basically just going about your life and fucking infecting everyone else. And he was like, I feel like others aren't doing the same thing. And again, I just find it very odd that I can't imagine that Benfica's players or Guimarães players are doing, if anything, Benfica and Porto and Sporting have conditions that none of those other teams have, right? They're traveling probably in a more a larger plane in better conditions, better training facilities with better cleaning capabilities, etc.
Their own hotels.
Right? But Benfica is getting fucking slaughtered with COVID cases. Guimarães just got smashed with COVID cases. But no one else is having this. I just find it very interesting.
I don't think Sporting's had one.
I think they had some at the beginning of the year.
But recently, none.
I think Porto had Loom recently, but again, a player that doesn't play, and just now the goalie from the B team. But apart from that, like, I don't know, Oscar, you're Mr. Conspiracy Theory. What are your thoughts on this?
Obviously, if the team is the one responsible to report it, of course there's going to be false tests and people not reporting the positive cases. This should be a federal thing. It should be a thing done by the league, not by the team.
Should.
Okay, so like, I don't blame the teams for cheating. Anybody in their right mind, if they're not like nobody's angels in the Portuguese league, and I don't blame them for like, hey, listen, I can get away with it playing my best player today in today's game. I'm going to do it, even if I infect anybody else. I know that's not ethical, but I can see them doing it. It should be a Portuguese league thing, which they test players the day before the game.
Well, they get tested 3 times a week. 3 times a week, I think.
Right, but before the game should have been a test by the league, not by the team, by the league.
I don't know who's responsible for the organization, but Marco Ribeiro says here Sporting had a handful at the beginning of the year. They did, because that first game of the season was postponed, I believe, because of COVID. I think it was against Gil Vicente. But since then, is what I'm saying, right? Like, as we've gone through, right, Sporting hasn't traveled as much, right? They haven't played in Europe, so they haven't had to travel as much, whereas Benfica and Porto have. But again, if there were cases to pop up, I would expect it to be between those two clubs. Even Braga. Braga just had a bunch of players out. Not against Sporting, the game before. I can't remember who it was against. They won 3-0, 4-0. Right? They just had a bunch of cases. But again, it's just, I find it very odd that of all the teams that are traveling across Europe, one team isn't having nearly as many issues as Benfica and Braga, who are traveling just as much. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, but I'm sure if there's any truth to it, it'll come out at the end, or maybe it will. I don't know.
And 2 of those have traveled to England, which is a hot zone.
True. Braga was there and Porto was there. Last topic before we do our predictions, and I don't think it'll be too long, but Lucas Verissimo confirmed Benfica $6.5 million, 3 payments to pay $6.5 million, which I think is interesting, to say the least. What do we think this changes in the team? I know we talked about it in our chat. Do we think my philosophy is Otamendi is the sacrificed one because he gets paid a lot of money. Vertonghen, I see him being a player that's in the team for 2-3 years. And I see Benfica trying to move Otamendi at the end of the season because he makes a big salary, and I don't see them being able to pay it all because Manchester City pays a large portion of it today. So I see a Vertonghen Verissimo partnership most likely, but having talked to Cristiano before the podcast, he threw the idea out of potentially a 3 at the back, which JJ did at Flamengo, with Vertonghen, Otamendi, and Verissimo. What do you guys think?
I think
will be?
That is a great idea. I think that's the type of like shakeup we need, because the 4-4-2 isn't really working for us. We need to change the tactics and change the way we play. So I would. I didn't think of that. So I like that.
And that allows them all to move up the field and not defend as much.
If you really think about it, that's how he's playing them right now with Grimaldo and Gilberto. How much they go up, and that's why we're missing a 6 is because we don't have that 6 that's going to drop in the middle like Javi Garcia, who used to pretty much be a third center back.
Well, that's what Weigel's been doing. He's been dropping in deep, and then Otamendi or whoever the center backs are today, Ferro and Bertongen are wide.
And that's what he did at Flamengo. He had a 3 back, but he had one of them was a winger, and he had Gerson would push back and fill that spot while that one would attack. So that it was I think it was that kid from Atletico that went there, Felipe Luis or Luis.
Yeah, Luis Felipe.
Yeah.
Felipe Luis.
He's the one that he would always attack, and Gerson would always come and fill that hole. So like you can tell Jesus wants to do that. He's been talking about it. He did it all year, and it was beyond successful in Flamengo. So you can tell he wants to do that. It's just that he doesn't have the personnel to do it.
So you play 3 at the back. You move Grimaldo up to a wing back. You play Gilberto as a wing back, right? It lessens his burden defensively, in a sense. Mm-hmm. Who's the sacrificed one that comes out of the team then? That's the question.
And the player that keeps swapping between Waldo.
Well, that's the thing, right? Does Gilberto play, or do you play Rafa as a right wing back who can attack and defend?
At that time, I would play Rafa.
Yeah. I would think
because you're right there. You cover your defense with what Rafa can't do defensively, but you have your 2 fast wing backs that can create. Yeah. So at that point I would put Rafa in there, but we need to figure out our midfield. We need to figure out the double in the midfield that can actually make the team run.
Hopefully, I think
that would be Weigl and PZ the best.
I think Benfica will make one more signing this month, and I think it'll be a midfield player. I think there'll be some players that leave, but I think one more player will come in. I think it'll be a midfield player to.
Dude, you know what's scaring me? We wasted how much we wasted this offseason? Do you know more or less? 100 million. We're not having the money come in from the stadium, from the fans, from everything. We're paying now 3 portions to pay 6.5 million, and we actually thought we were good financially. I'm starting to have doubts.
I read a report today which it broke down what our salary cap was last year, what we were paying in salaries, and then we'll only find out in March. They released the numbers in March. But last year we paid some crazy amount of money. Like 80 million or something altogether with coaching staff, players, or 70 maybe. And there's a potential that this year it'll rise to about 100 million, which is a substantial amount of money when you consider we didn't make Champions League. We haven't really sold anyone big except for Ruben Diaz. We don't have that fan money, the ticket money, concession stand money. It'll be interesting to see what those numbers look like over the course of the next 12 months, because I'm starting to feel like you, whereas it's almost like the smoke screen. Like, yeah, financially we're good, and we may be, but it's going to get to a point where you can't spend all this money. There's going to be a breaking point.
Exactly. Yeah. What I was trying to get at is we're spending money like we're a top team, like we're like a team that plays club. like a buying club, and we're not. We're a selling club. Portuguese teams are a selling
small
club.
market.
But we are also going to sell. We're not going to. I mean, they're going to trim the fat somewhere.
Who the fuck are we going to sell for money now?
I think Grimaldo would be the biggest cash cow.
Dude, Weigl has a huge market right now.
Yeah, Weigl will get you 20 million like we paid for him.
No.
Yeah, 25 million max.
Yes, Weigl will not get you more than that money we paid.
Our biggest cash cow would be Grimaldo.
Okay, that's still money. That's still a sale. That's money. And salary too. What's Samadi still doing on the team making what he makes? Why don't you trim his fat?
Yeah, but somebody's get you 5 million, not even.
Doesn't matter, but just cutting his salary completely.
I totally get that, but we're not gonna get money like we used to get to buy a good player.
I agree, but you have to get by somehow. They're gonna bring players in, but they're also gonna sell players too.
Correct, but we're not going to be able to sell those big money players because if
Yeah.
we do, then we're basically shooting ourselves in the foot.
And let's think about this. Vigo at the beginning of the season, or the first 5 games of the season, like get rid of him, let's get some cash, blah, blah, blah. Right now, he's probably Jesus' favorite midfielder.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I don't know if
that's also building his market.
Correct. I don't know if JJ is just doing that to put him in the shop window to say, hey, he's playing well. Let's, this is why he's worth 20, 25 million.
And Gabriel's also been missing.
Correct.
But Vigo's turning to be one of my best favorite players. Too,
I think he's our best all-around midfielder.
He's expendable. He's expendable.
Yeah. But he's improving, which is what I'm looking for Benfica players, and he's the only one that's actually taking steps to where I want him to go. So
look, at the end of the day, this the no fan thing and the recetas and all that. I mean, the end is kind of in sight. I mean, by the end of this season, it should things should they should start getting to see some players, some fans back in the stadium, and that
they said there should be fans this month.
All right, so you just kind of gotta survive. You just gotta survive this little period here, even if it's this season, and then hopefully things should be back to normal.
I'd get rid of Samaris and Vigo to get William Carvalho in the team.
No.
Yeah,
I would. As much as I love Samaris, but if we have to make a cut, then I would let him go.
I think the only reason I would get rid of Samaris is because of the salary. I would agree with that.
But I don't think he's going to go. I don't think he's going to go.
He won't.
But why? Yeah. Why though? Why are they so Samaris doesn't even play? He does. He's not.
They love him.
I don't think it's about the club. I think it's about him. I don't think he wants.
They
to
love
leave.
him. Okay.
It's no different than Mesut Ozil, right? Arsenal offered him his money and said, "Here's the rest of your money. Leave. Terminate the contract."
And he loves
was like,
Arsenal.
"No, I'm staying here to the end."
Yeah,
right? So it's no different,
Arsenal.
right? He's got a contract. If he wants to stay,
then he doesn't love the club as much as he says he does.
What do you mean? He loves them so much. He's giving donations.
Yeah, he loves himself.
He's giving them Instagram posts.
Yeah. Friday, Benfica. The game was moved to Friday against Tondela at home. I actually want to see if we play before everyone else. For once, let me see. So Sporting plays. Fixtures. So Sporting plays against Nacional. No, this is still the first round. Sporting plays the 7th, which I think is Thursday. Yeah, and then we play the 8th. Yeah, because it moved. So again,
Porto plays somebody count that day too. Friday.
Yeah,
at 4:00. So after us.
So we play before. So Sporting plays first again. So we play Tondela on Friday. And looking at the,
we'll be 1 point. We'll be 1 point behind Sporting by Saturday this week.
I hope so.
I think Sporting loses in Nacional, and that's my bet.
I like Oscar because
they at Nacional?
As the podcast goes on, and he got more and more positive as we ended.
That's the thing.
He started off like, "Dude, we're gonna be miserable behind."
No, that's Kenny. That's Kenny. I didn't say that. I said not for him not to say that on air because I had that with
Paul. Tondela is 13th, 3 wins, 3 draws, 6 losses. They've scored 10 goals, conceded 20 goals. They, in their last 5, they have 1 win, 3 losses, and 2 draws. They beat Famalicão in their last game. So that was, other than that, they had, and they hadn't scored, or they scored, that was for the Taça. But, yeah, so they're not doing too well. They're 1 point off the relegation zone. Again, that doesn't really say anything. I guess, what are your thoughts in terms of, I'm hoping Gabriel is back and some of these guys with COVID are back in the team. Whether they start or not, probably unlikely.
When are they expected to
I think it's safe to say they'll get 1 goal.
They get a lot of red cards. I'm looking through here. They have 1, 2, 3, 4. They got 4 red cards.
Safe to say they'll get 1 goal at least.
Well,
they're aggressive.
The last 5 games, they Porto struggled both games against them.
Yeah,
and they should have lost 1.
They should have lost 1. Yeah, they should have.
Yeah, they did.
Porto got a red card that game.
Yeah,
they beat them 4-3 and then 2-1 in the Taça.
They got extremely lucky.
And Tondela
so
hit the crossbar at the end.
Yep.
So we're gonna tie. So Benfica's gonna get a red card, and we're gonna tie 1-1 again.
They're gonna get a red card too, dude. You just told me that they get a lot of red cards.
And I believe their coach, he was at Benfica at one point, I think, in the past, if I'm not mistaken, Tundella's coach.
Conspiracy theories for other people.
But hey, if we're gonna think about Jesus not being at Benfica with different players, that Tondela coach has no Benfica players in his fucking roster. So, like that, if you're gonna use Jesus as an excuse, the Tondela coach has no philosophy of Benfica anymore.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I believe he was a coach.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean he knows Benfica's system or Benfica players. Just saying if you're gonna get there.
No, I wasn't.
I don't even think Benfica knows its players.
I know they don't.
Listen, I was just earlier I was looking ahead at the following schedule that we have for January. I had Tundela as a victor. But if we do lose this match, then I might not come back on this podcast. So I mean, because if we lose this match, then we're gonna lose like 4 of the next 5.
Because then what? We play Estrela Amadora and then we play Porto.
Yeah.
And not to think about that, we play Estrela Amadora three days before Porto, which that guarantee that game is a resting day. They're gonna use a lot of B players.
Yeah, we're gonna lose to them.
Yeah, it's like
that's Jorge's hometown, dude. They're not gonna knock him out of the taça. Come on. They're gonna be like, "Oh, Jorge, vem para casa da tia Maria, comer umas bifanas antes do jogo."
We give you a nice prosciutto.
Yeah. What are your predictions for that game, Oscar? By the way, no one predicted the score.
Of course not.
Game.
What did I say against Santa Clara? I wasn't here. I didn't come.
You didn't say anything. Bill said 2-1. Kenny said 3-1. Tank said 2-1 in the chat. Alex said 2-0, and I said 2-0.
We didn't even create 3 chances, Kenny. It's so wrong.
I was close.
I got their score right. They got 1 on us. Every team's gonna score a goal on us. That's another thing we need to start bringing up on this podcast is how are we conceding on every single.
Hey, you know what's funny is that we have 13 goals scored against and Porto has 15.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but that was early.
We talk about how good Porto's team is defensively.
Well, that you're just looking at the numbers. If you go look at it, I think they had like 1 or 2 games where they got a ton of goals, but they've been on a clean sheet for a while, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah.
Well, maybe
they conceded 2 against Guimarães. They clean sheet against Nacional. They conceded 1 against, or that was for the Taça,
and 3 against Tondela.
3 against Tondela for the league. Clean sheet against Santa Clara in the league. 1 against Portimonense in the league. So 2 against Paço Ferreira, or 3 against Paço Ferreira when they lost in the league.
Didn't we, when Jay was on the podcast, didn't we talk about this, that Porto doesn't concede that much?
No, he was saying that they do concede a lot.
No. We talked that they don't concede.
Now they have more goals.
He said on that left side or right side, something like that, that they have a terrible time.
They have more goals conceded in the league than we do.
Yeah. All right. Maybe it was like all total games. I don't know. Whatever.
Maybe.
I say we win 2-0, and I think ultimately coming back, he'll fix up the defense a little bit.
Clean sheet. You sure?
If we can get a clean sheet at home against Tondela.
Oscar has a fever.
No, man, I'm just trying to hype up my team so you can fucking.
He's trying to be the guy in the locker room.
Reverse psychology.
Against Tondela, considering they gave Porto a rough time, I'm going to say 2-1 us.
That was your score?
No.
2-1, huh? I'm going to say...
Stick with 3-1, dude. 3-1, dude. I know you're
I'm going to stick with it. 3-1.
There you go.
You know what? 3-2.
Put the bag back on your head, Big Y.
Do we score in the 90th minute?
God.
We're gonna score. We're gonna score 3 goals first, and then they're gonna score 2, and almost.
So starting now, the game against Santa Clara. So the game against Santa Clara was the first one. So now I'm going to do. If you get the score correct, you get 3 points. If you get the result correct, so win or tie or loss, it's 1 point. And then I'll tally it, and then the guest scores will just be added. Every guest gives us their own score. If we don't have a guest, the first comment score in the comments will count as the guest score. So we'll see between now and the end of the season.
My four previous
those don't count.
predictions, putos
That was preseason.
Yeah, preseason. New Year, Kenny, 2021.
Fantasy playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Oscar, and I'm going to say 2-0 as well. Clean sheet.
I was going to change my score, but I'm sticking with it. 3-2.
All right. Mikey says 2-1. Tiago says 1-0. 1-0. I don't know if I can suffer through 1-0.
That 1-0 looks good too, though.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah,
Not for my heart.
Coming from Oscar would have a heart attack.
1-0 Tundela, yeah.
Oh, man. All right, boys. Anything else we want to add before signing off? We got PRLX from Lisboa.
Hey, I'll say one thing though before we go. Right. I think if this season doesn't go to plan, like if we don't even make Champions League, and I'm not throwing the towel for no means whatsoever. I'm not throwing the towel, but I think we should revert back to what we had in plan for the last 5 years, which is try to go for our Seychelles.
That's a bad idea. Let's blow it up and then start new and then blow it up again.
No, we created something.
Bring Lodge back too. How about that?
No, I will take him in a heartbeat and give rid of Josh Jesus. A heartbeat, like legit. Like if there was the magic stick that you like, they snap the fingers, bring Lodge back, and Jesus gone, I'll do it.
Well, then you'd break the stick.
He's too busy watching Canal Panda and collecting his paycheck from Benfica because we're still paying him.
Yeah, well, I don't blame him if he gets stupid.
All right, we got to jump off because Kenny's gonna suffocate with that bag on his head.
That
Boys,
means we need extra, by the way.
it was good as always. Mike De Silva says 3-0 Benfica. PRLX from Lisbon. It's late there
shit!
for early. He agrees with Kenny 3-2. We'll be back early next week, most likely. Game on Friday to recap that game against Tundela. Hopefully, everyone will be a little bit more positive. We'll have 3 points in the bag, and hopefully, we'll be 1 point away from Sporting, like Oscar predicted.
Oh, it's 100%.
If not, I don't know what else to do. I mean, this is pretty bad. I don't know what other gimmick I can do.
A plastic one. You got to use a plastic one.
And you got to tie it.
Maybe
Manny says 0-2 Tundela.
He's a Cowboy fan. That's what I expect from them losing.
Manny's at an all-time low right now. The only thing he's riding high is Manchester United.
Oh, man. All right, boys. It's been good. Thank you for everyone in the chat with their comments during the conversation. Again, check us out on Facebook, O Continue Benfiquista, on our website, ocontinuebenfiquista.com, Portuguese and English content. On YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And we're all on Twitter. Mine and Oscar's is there. Joe Miguel's, I think, is J Migsy, is his Twitter handle, and Kenny is K Defont, the number 4.
Yeah, K Defont 4.
So check us out. Join the conversation. Thanks for watching, and we will see you guys next week. See ya.
Later, guys.
See ya.